Okay, we're going to see into the future, and if you were here, I would have you shuffle this deck of cards as much as you would like. But since you're not here, I get to do your job and my job. So maybe I'll shuffle it one more time. And then what I'll do is I'll just take the cards from you, and I'm going to choose a prediction card. Now, of course, I'm not going to show you ahead of time what the prediction card is. That would not be too much fun, I don't think. I'll put the prediction card over here where you can keep an eye on it. Now, we need a number of cards for this effect. And so, but you're free to choose that number. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to deal out the cards, and I'll state how many, we have at each point in dealing. And then when you feel like we have enough cards, I'll go ahead and stop dealing. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You want me to keep going? Okay. 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Okay. You want 23 or 24? 23? Okay. That's just fine. We'll go with 23. Okay. So we have this set of 23 cards. Decided by you, actually. And now what I would like you to do is go ahead and freely cut off any number of cards from here. Okay, I'm going to try to do it and at least leave something. It looks like I just about cut all of the cards. That was a genius. But anyway, nonetheless, hopefully we can be successful together. And so you've cut off this number of cards. Now, of course, if you were here, I would have you actually do that cut. So that genuinely is a random cut. It truly, truly is. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to deal out 23 cards a second time. But this time, I want to kind of mix them as we go by deciding kind of when to stop dealing them into piles. And I'll have you decide that. So once again, you'll have to trust that I would perhaps say stop where you would say stop. Okay. And if you were here, you genuinely could tell me to stop at any point, as you'll see. Okay. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, stop. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, stop. Okay. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, stop. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, stop. 22, 23. Isn't that how many cards we dealt out, right, the first time? So we have 23 cards, and we're going to stack them in the opposite order to which they were dealt. Okay, and that makes sense here to just really mix these cards. Okay, so I have these 23 cards here, and whose order is actually decided by you, by the way. Okay. And if needs be, if you've seen some of my previous performances, I'll use a die roll to decide how many to deal out into each pile, but I wanted to spare you that today. So what we're going to do for the first time, we're going to see how many cards you freely cut. And like I said, I cut a whole bunch of cards. So it's going to make it a bunch of work to count them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, there's 15 cut cards there. So what we're going to do is deal out the top 15 cards here. And that next card going to be the card we'll use to determine if indeed we can see into the future. So we said 15, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh, 15. We said 15. So 15, okay? So for the first time, let's look at our prediction card. What is our prediction card? It looks like it's the 2 of hearts. Did we indeed see into the future? I believe we did. We found the companion. There's only one companion card for each card in the deck, and we found it. So in some ways, we've kind of brought some balance to the space-time continuum here. So this is what we saw. That's what I saw. That's why I grabbed the 2 of hearts, because I just felt like, I think I think we're going to finish with the 2 of diamonds. Okay, so that is the see into the future using a top card and 1 prediction card. Okay, so let's talk about this and how it works. Now, if you've seen my card effect, the 21 card force on my channel, we're using one of the principles there. Now, you don't necessarily have to understand all of the mathematics of that to make use of this right away. So I don't want to frighten anybody regarding understanding any kind of difficult mathematics in order to be able to carry this out. Okay, so how this works is you genuinely can begin with a shuffle deck. You really, really can. Okay, so it can be table wash, it can be mixed in any way. And then what you do as the performer, you take the cards from the spectator and you tell them that you're going to be choosing a prediction card, okay? Now, the card that you'll be looking for is the companion card to the top card of the deck, okay? So in my mind, I'm just thinking black 7. Find the other black 7, which is the 7 of spades. So as I go through here, remember the cards are kind of like this, right? The spectator's not seeing what you're doing. So you go through here and, oh, I spotted it already, okay? And if you want to use a little bit of misdirection and say, oh, okay, this is a good prediction. I'm not feeling good about that one. I don't think that one's very good. I think this is the one I should go with, okay? So you can just kind of pull a funny little thing like that, making it look like you change your mind. If you recall, the prediction card goes off to the side where the spectator can keep an eye on it. And then if you remember, I had us deal a certain number of cards to the table. Now, it actually doesn't matter how many you deal. Now, you probably should deal 10 or more, otherwise it's not very interesting, especially when we start cutting cards. So some number between, let's say, 10 and 26 is safe, okay? But most spectators will stay in that range just naturally because they get tired of watching you deal them out. So you can count them as you go because you need to know this number. So you can say, okay, I'll deal and I'll count them as we go, and then you tell me when to stop. But, maybe allow us to deal out at least 10 of them or something. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Stop. Stop at 17. Okay, 17 is just fine. Okay, and then you pick up the cards. Now, it's at this point we have the spectator cut off a certain number of cards, any number that they like. And it's helpful to maybe turn it sideways just so you can remind yourself that that's the cut pile. Okay, so we have prediction card off to the right, the cut cards at a different angle, and then these are the remaining cards. Now, as they're cutting from this packet, just nonchalantly kind of drop those on top over here, okay? So that we just have 3 little piles, prediction, and then cut cards, and then the rest of the deck. And then after they've cut those cards, pick this up and explain that you're going to have them deal out that same number of cards, but this time you kind of want to mix them up in terms of order. Okay, so what I did is I did something called the first shall be last, the last shall be first. Now, you would not have to do this dealing out into multiple piles if you would rather not. What you could do is just deal out another 17 cards. I mean, that would be the most direct way of getting to where we need to be next. But it's nice to give the spectator the feeling that they're making important choices that could affect the outcome, right? They don't want to feel like you're controlling everything. Otherwise, it's not all that surprising in the end that something, unusual happens. So what I've done is I've used that shuffle. And how this works is, and I'll have to count them as I go because I just want 17. So you deal them out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, until the spectator says stop, and then you go on to the next pile, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe they say stop there. 10, 11, 12, 13. Maybe they say stop there. 14, 15. Maybe they say stop again. 16, 17. Okay, so we have 17 cards dealt out. The exact number in each of these little piles truly is being decided by the spectator. Now, the remaining cards we don't need anymore. So you can set them just, off to the side. They're just not needed anymore. Okay. Now, if you're going to do what I've done here, instead of just dealing out 17 cards a second time, you need to stack from right to left. And I just simply said, well, we're going to stack them in the opposite order to which they were dealt. That seems like a reasonable thing to do. You just state it without, drawing attention to the fact that maybe they should question that statement. But if you've watched any of my other card performances, you'll realize that this dealing out that we just did with reverse stacking is a packet reversal. It just reverses the cards. Well, that's exactly what happens when you deal cards to the table. 1, 2, 3, you reverse their order. Very good. So we have this new little packet of 17. And I do want to point out a second time, I apologize, that the engine driving this particular version of the routine is the same engine that drives the 21 card effect. And there I go into explaining kind of how that works. But maybe here, we're not going to take the time to do that. I use, quote, B brackets, some special mathematical notation to explain why this technique that we're using here actually works every time. Okay, so we've dealt out another 17 cards. And then if you remember, we're almost done actually. We just have to find out, well, how many cards did the spectator freely cut at the beginning? Well, you just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, 10 cards. And so 10 cards will be the number of cards that you'll remove. Another way of saying this is once you deal out 10 cards, the next card will be the companion to our prediction card. So you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And so right here is going to be our special card, the one I noted at the very beginning, okay? And so you can say, at this point, you can say, well, I actually chose a prediction card, you may recall. So let's go ahead and just take a look at what I chose at the very beginning. And is it conceivable that I actually kind of saw into the future and knew where we would arrive after these decisions are being made by you, actually? A lot of random choices are being made by you. So where did it bring us? Oh, I don't know. I think that's very surprising. And the reason I chose that prediction card is in my mind's eye, I could see the 7 of clubs. So if you follow those steps exactly, it's going to work for you every time. And if you want to look into the mathematics behind this 21 card force technique, go ahead and just take a look at that video. Okay, so that is our first see into the future card routine. And I encourage you to watch the other ones that I put together under this heading. So thank you for watching. Okay, we're going to see into the future. And if you were here, I would have you shuffle this deck of cards as much as you would like, okay? But of course, since you're not here, I'll have to play your part, okay? And once you're satisfied that the cards are sufficiently mixed, I'll take them from you and I'm going to just quickly choose what I've called 2 prediction cards, okay? And I want to assure you that I won't be changing the order of the deck. This is the order that you've put the cards in. Now, you're going to have to trust me on that because I'm going to go off camera to choose my prediction cards. But just know when you go to perform this, you won't need to rearrange anything, okay? In fact, that's kind of important because then the spectator will see that indeed you did not change the order of any of the cards, okay? So let's see, 2 prediction cards. I think that one's probably a good one. How about this one? I think I feel better about that. Okay, well, we'll see. We'll see how I did in just a moment. But so we have these 2 prediction cards. I'll set them off to the side. So once again, you can kind of keep an eye on those. So what we're going to do now is we're going to deal out these cards, and I'd like to get a good mixture, a true random collection of cards here. So what we'll do is we'll deal out from the top first until you tell me to stop. Stop. Okay, and then we'll kind of throw away a bunch of them, and then we'll deal from the middle until you tell me to stop. Stop there. Okay. Okay, and then we'll deal from the bottom. Stop. Okay, very good. Wow, so we have chosen cards from the top, the middle, and the bottom. And so what we're going to do now is we're simply going to, since I have 2 prediction cards, we're going to deal out the cards into 2 piles. Left, right. And you have to realize that wherever we arrive here is completely determined by choices that you've made, right? Think about it. You were allowed to mix the cards as much as you wanted. That's true. And then I just took the deck from you, and without changing any of the cards in any way, any ordering of the cards, I just quickly went through the deck, and I tried to use my intuition to select 2, quote, prediction cards. And then from there, we dealt out a very kind of random collection of cards, some from the top, some from the middle, and some from the bottom. And the stopping place for each of those 3 portions of the deck was completely decided by you. And then what we've done here is we've just done the standard left-right deal, as you would, and dealing out 2 hands to 2 players. So that's a very common thing to do. And it's brought us to this point right here. Okay. So I have the prediction cards, of course. So I'm going to set one down right here and one right here. And so we're going to see how we did. Okay. So what is the card here? 4. Okay. So 4 of diamonds. What about this one? Oh boy. Wow. What happened? I think we failed there. I don't see any connection between those 2 cards. Okay, well, what the heck? What's this one? Oh, those are companion cards, right? Now, there's no way. There's no way this is the 4 of hearts, right? There's no way. There is. What the heck? How in the world did you just happen to make decisions in mixing that deck and telling me when to stop dealing from the top and middle and bottom? And from there, we just did left, right until we ran out of cards. How in the world did those decisions made by you lead to an outcome that matches my prediction cards? My 2 prediction cards, red 4, a black 10. That's what you got, a red 4 and a black 10. Absolutely amazing. So please explain that to me. How did you do that? Okay, well, I will explain to you how we did that because that's my job. So that is one kind of a rendition of this effect that we could do. There's many variations. And if you give it some thought, you can come up with so many variations on this one effect, almost to the point where you would not have to do the same effect more than once. I mean, you can probably come up with a dozen different ways to couch this. Okay, so what is the secret to this see into the future? The top 2 cards and then 2 prediction cards. Well, let me tell you what is true, and I don't think I actually lied to you. I mean, sometimes you have to tell little fibs, but I don't think I even told any little fibs in this performance. Didn't need to. Okay, so you truly can have the spectator mix the deck as much as they would like. Okay, so it makes it a wonderful performance because it's completely impromptu. You can just be handed a random deck, can be the spectator's deck, and say, okay, just mix those cards as much as you would like, okay? And so once they've mixed them, you just take the cards from them and you explain to them that you're going to you're going to use your intuition to choose 2, quote, prediction cards. But assure the spectator that you're not going to change the order of any of the cards here. You're not going to like rearrange things. Okay, now what you're looking for, and you saw me shuffle the cards, right? I was genuinely just shuffling. And the situation that we're looking at here is like winning the lottery, by the way, but it happens. And so I'm kind of glad that it happened here, because now I can show you what to do in this case. It ends up that the cards that we're making note of, the ones that will be the top cards once we do the left, right at the end and flip those and then compare them to our companion cards, are these 2. Okay, so what I did originally for our video today, I just secretly, you hold it like this, you don't show it to the spectator. And so I just note the color and value of the top 2 cards. And maybe now you can see, wow, that's amazing. We have the 2 black 9s. But it happens, and it happens more often than you might think. So it's just wonderful. I mean, this is like, yes. So whatever these cards are, you go through here and you find their, quote, companion cards. Right? That's normally what you would do. And if you rewind the video, I guess you can do that, you'll see that I found the companion cards. Well, the companion cards are right here, right? So this would be the one case that you would have to handle differently. So what you do here is maybe the obvious thing. You just find the other 2 9s as your prediction cards, okay? And I had no idea that that was going to happen to us during the tutorial. That's absolutely amazing. Okay, so you just set out those as your prediction cards. There you go. Keep them in full view the whole time, okay? And then, once again, point out that, you haven't rearranged the cards in any way. The spectator will, I'm sure, watch for that. And then you explain that you'd like to get a good random collection of cards to work with, okay? So you're going to get some cards from the top, middle, and bottom, and it will be decided by the spectator. So what you do is you begin dealing out, pretty quickly. You need to get at least the top 2 cards down before, and they say stop or something, okay? So you can say, okay, tell me when to stop. Stop, okay? And then you just push off quite a few cards and just toss them to the side. They're not needed. And then you deal from the middle until the spectator says, stop, okay, and you throw some of those away, and then you deal from the bottom until they tell you to stop. Stop there, okay, very good, okay? So among other things, what this does is it very much gives the impression that these cards are beyond the knowledge of anyone, right? Because they came from the top and the middle and the bottom, and the spectator decided, when to stop dealing from those 3 portions of the deck, okay? But they probably won't realize that you do know something. You know the identity of the bottom cards, 2 bottom cards, okay? Because those were dealt off first, okay? Well, just think through what's going to happen. The mathematics here, I guess, would simply be that of the idea of reversal or inverses, okay? So what was on top is now on bottom. Well, now if we deal out the cards left, right, what was on the bottom is now on the top. So it's like we come full circle. So we've essentially moved the top cards back to the top, essentially. So you do top to bottom, then bottom to top. So you deal them out into 2 piles like this. Okay, now I'm going to show you, I talked about a lot, there are a lot of different variations. So here we're going to take a moment to kind of talk about some of those. But so I've just done what I've done before, the traditional, okay? And then you just bring over the companion, the prediction cards. Now I want to point out that if you go back to, see, what did I have? let's see, a red was a red 4 and a black 10, right? So if you go back in the video, you'll see that. Depending on the order in which these prediction cards were discovered by you and then set down, and then of course, depending on how many cards there are that are being dealt left, right, these may match or not, right? I mean, these, like, if you remember, I had a 4 of hearts, is that right? No, four of diamonds here, and then I think I had the 10 of clubs there, right? So they didn't match, right? So in some ways I had a 50-50 chance. This card will exactly match with that one, and the same thing here. Okay, now to keep track of those different variables that I just mentioned is probably a waste of human brain power, okay? Because there's really no need to. Because all you have to do is, it's kind of wonderful if they don't match, because it looks like, we call it a miscall. It looks like you messed up. And spectators they almost enjoy that more than being fooled. They love to mess you up as a magician. So you say, okay, well, where did we come here? You know, what's that card? And then you flip this one over. Okay, so whether or not this is the companion card, like in that first example I did, and we'll probably do all of this one more time because we happen to hit on kind of the exception. Whether it matches this or not, you're going to be fine. If it matches, great. It's like, whoa, you matched them exactly. If you don't, then you get this kind of diagonal matching, and you know, it will end just as strong, and perhaps stronger in some ways, because they think you messed up, and then you pull out of a nosedive suddenly. Okay, now in the case that there's 2 companion cards at the top of the deck, like is the case for the performance right now, you end up revealing all 4 of that value, which is great, And it's going to be just as mind-blowing for the spectator. Okay, let's do it one more time, but this time let's do it so that we don't have companion cards at the top. So you have the spectator mix the cards as much as they would like. They hand it to you, and then you look at the top 2 cards. Now, you don't show them. So now I want to point out some suggestions here. Carry as little information as you can, otherwise you're going to get muddled up. So when you go to look for the companion cards, don't think Jack of Hearts or something. Just think red Jack, black 5. Red Jack, black 5. Red Jack, black 5 as you go through. Red Jack, oh, there's a red Jack, and black 5. Now, you don't say it out loud, but you just say it to yourself. And you can always go back and start over, and you can just make out that, boy, you're just not getting a clear signal as to what the prediction card should be. So, you know, just use your creativity and your personality to, you know, to make it even more fun and kind of cover any potential kind of missteps along the way. So we have our prediction cards, of course, and they are the cards that correspond to these 2. And if you notice, the order in which these were found doesn't agree, right? Like this is the top one there is the red Jack, okay? So that's why I recommended that you not worry when we get to the end and you reveal them. Don't worry about whether you've matched them up, because I think you'll just get yourself all confused. There's a wonderful ending for either outcome. So, okay, and then see if you can remember. What do we do next? You start dealing. You need to get 2 on the table as quickly as possible. And you say, okay, tell me when to stop dealing. Stop, okay. Now we'll take some from the middle. Let me know when to stop. Stop there. Take some from the bottom. Stop there. Okay, very good. And it's good to use some of the statements that I include, you know, kind of, now don't do what I just did, by the way. Don't show them the bottom. Don't show them the bottom. They're going to remember that. Use some of the statements that I've used previously. Just explain that, boy, this is a good mixture of cards coming from the top, middle, and bottom. And, you know, where we stop was completely decided by you, the spectator. And all of that's true. And so now we're simply going to deal out the cards left, right, left, right. like that. Okay, and it brings us to this point right here. Okay, so we're still doing the kind of traditional routine. And then I suggested that you just, whatever order, just bring these over here and say, I wonder if I was correct in what I thought I saw in the future as to where this whole process would bring us. And at this point, if you want to just quickly review, say, okay, well, you shuffled the deck, right? Yeah. And then I just chose 2 prediction cards and I didn't change the order of the cards. Is that right? Yeah. And then we dealt cards from the top until you told me to stop. Yes, that's true. And then from the middle. Yep. And then from the bottom. Yep, that's all true. And then we just did a left, right, like you're dealing out 2 hands of cards for 2 players. Yep, yep. And also you can point out that the reason for doing left, right is because you have 2 prediction cards. I mean, that's another way to justify it. Okay. And so what you can do here is say, okay, well, what card did we actually arrive at here on the left? And then I have a prediction card here. How did we do? Oh boy, that's not good. I don't see that that's all that connected to that card. Okay, so this is what happened to me in the first one, which is fine. And so the spectator thinks you failed, which is wonderful, okay? And so you can pretend to be sad and dejected and, a little, frustrated that, man, I thought I really saw clearly what would happen here. You say, well, what the heck? What's this one? And then kind of hesitate like, whoa, wait a second. These are companion cards. And then you can point out something that's extremely unlikely. You go, now, there's no way, is there, that this is the 5 of spades? No way. There's no way that, and you can pretend that, you're eager to see what it is as well, because it can't possibly be true. It is true. How in the world did you just happen to make the choices that you did with how you randomly mixed the cards and selected cards from the deck? How did that lead to this outcome that apparently I must have seen? I must have seen that we would finish in this way. So, okay, I thought we would look at variations for those who would like to go beyond what I've shown you so far. So where we are right now is I'm actually displaying the prediction cards. Normally they would be face down over here and no one would see them until the end, but here they are. And then here are, of course, the companion cards. And so I went through the deck, right, and I grabbed those as my predictions cards. And then, of course, we deal from the top, the middle, and from the bottom. Okay. And that's decided by the spectator as to when to stop. Okay. Here are some places where you can deviate from what we've done before, which gives the spectator even more choices, and it makes it even more unbelievable, actually, is instead of just doing this uniform left, right, you can give the spectator the choice to have you deal multiple times to, one pile, both piles. Maybe they say, keep dealing. Now, what you need to do at the very end is you need to be aware of whether these 2 cards were dealt on separate piles. Now, as to whether they match these, as I've said earlier, don't worry about that. That's not important in the least, okay? And it's going to blow your circuitry if you try to keep track of that as well. So if they have you deal those last 2 cards on separate piles, then it's just like the traditional routine. But if they have you deal those last 2 cards to the same pile, that's the variation I wanted to talk about, okay? So if this happens, what you need to do is you just ask them to, now listen to the word choice is really important here, okay? You ask them to push or slide one of the piles towards me, towards, this me as the performer. So if I'm speaking to you, I would say, can you push one of those piles towards me? Either pile, which one? And so maybe they push this one towards me, okay? Now this is the one I don't want, okay? So all you have to do is you can say, well, very good. We'll discard that with the other cards, And so let's see what that leaves us with, right? And this is the one we want, okay? Whereas if they push or slide this one towards you and say, very good, you just pick it up and say, very good. We'll finish with these cards here, and then we'll discard those, okay? So no matter which pile is slid towards you, you can get your hands on the right one. And it has to do with the wording of the phrase. When you just say, can you slide one of those piles towards me? Or can you push one of those piles towards me? You're not making a commitment as to what you're going to do with that pile. Is that the pile you're going to use from this point on? Is that the pile you're going to throw away? You haven't said, okay? So it's the ambiguity of the statement that allows you to force a certain outcome, okay? Now, so what will happen here, of course, is the top two cards are the companion cards, okay? And so from here, there's probably 2 or 3 variations from here as well. Now you have to realize, let's go all the way back, I guess. Normally you'd be in this situation, right? I had those face up for educational reasons for you, but you'd have these 2 prediction cards that would have been over here, right? And you'd kind of bring them over like this. You could separate them if you wanted. I suppose you could even keep them together. Like I said, there's so many different ways to go. I guess you could keep them together and then show this card here and then show this card here. And so I have 50-50 chance. I nailed it perfectly, of course, right? I mean, that's going to make their eyes pop, right? So that would be wonderful. But make sure we do it the wrong way this time. But if when you show this one here, this one doesn't match, just do the same thing we did before, where you pretend to be dejected and, you know, kind of surprised and frustrated that, oh man, I really thought I saw clearly the outcome of all of this, and I guess I failed. By the way, what's this one anyway? Whoa, you're kidding me. Now what do you think the chances are that this is the 10 of clubs? There's no way. There's no way that it's the 10. How in the world? So you can so here at this point, it's just like what we were doing when we had 2 piles and we were revealing the top cards. Okay, so I wanted to show you that variation where you genuinely allow them to decide the left-right. Because right now, in the original tradition, it's pretty rigid, left, right, left, right. And some spectators will think, well, I want you to deal a few here and then there. And so now you know you can say, okay, very good, we can do that. And you just have to keep an eye on where they go. If they go in separate piles, fine. If they go into the same pile, then you force that pile by having them push one pile towards you. So anyway, so with practice, you can get to the point where no matter what the spectator throws your way, you have an out. You have a very calm, kind of premeditated, you've already thought through outs that allow you to finish in a very comfortable and confident way. And then you can act up, you know, maybe being a little surprised at something, you know, it seemed like you failed just for a moment there, but then you pull out of a nosedive and it works out perfectly. Okay. So anyway, that's the into the future, top 2 cards, and then of course 2 prediction cards. Okay, I have a deck of cards here, and if you were here, I would have you randomize these as much as you would like. You could do a riffle shuffle or an overhand shuffle, or you could even table wash them. Okay, and then once you're satisfied, maybe we'll do one more here. Once you're satisfied the cards are mixed, I'll take them from you in order to choose 2 prediction cards. Now, because I don't want you to see those cards right now, I'm going to go ahead and just choose them kind of off camera. And then I'll show you what I'm doing, you know, during the tutorial course. You'll know exactly, you know, what I was doing. Okay, so 2 prediction cards. Wow, I'm not feeling very good about any of these. That's the only one I feel good about. I don't know. This one's okay, I guess. Okay, so I've chosen 2 prediction cards. So we'll set them off over here so you can keep an eye on them. And now, of course, since I was doing that mixing off camera, you might suspect that the cards are being fiddled with in some way. So let's go ahead and just kind of mix these cards a bit. Okay. Oh, and in the introduction, by the way, I mentioned an overhand shuffle. And I don't think that's one that we've actually used yet. So it's a good one to be aware of. You hold the cards cards like this. And then what you do is you pull off clumps of cards. Now, it's a messy shuffle, meaning it's very common for cards to just go flying. And even the best of magicians will drop them. So it's not a sign of that you're bad, that shuffling or something. It's almost meant to be a messy shuffle. You can kind of see that actually here, just a big old mess. Okay, so anyway, that's called an overhand shuffle. Okay, so I've riffle shuffled 3 times and a couple of overhand shuffles. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to actually take a peek at our prediction cards here. Okay, so they're both clubs. That's kind of interesting. Both clubs. 2 and a 5. Now, this next thing you're going to have to kind of watch quickly because it will happen really fast, okay? Boy, what are these? What happened there? How in the world were they able to pull those out of the deck? Maybe I actually did see the future. Maybe I did see the future. Okay, so that is the performance where a top and bottom card and 2 prediction cards are used. And then I use something called a snap. It's called a snap glide, I think, or snap slide. Now, the one I actually did in the performance was a bad one, by the way. I'm actually doing good ones now that I'm less stressed about, messing up. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling the top and bottom. So what you do is you hold the top and bottom cards, and then you kind of give it a flick. And just because of the, maybe the oils on your fingers and the friction there, you're going to hold on to the top and bottom, but those middle cards are just going to slide out. Now, it is true normally that as you get down to smaller and smaller packet sizes, it gets harder and harder to do because you just don't have enough momentum, I guess, or enough mass to be moving around for this flick to, it's still working, I guess. But I'm sure when you get down to, 3 or 4, it would be hard to do because the friction between the cards will start to approach the friction between your finger and the cards. Yeah, it's like there, you can't do it. So I call that a snap slide. So snap because you're doing it fast. Okay, so how does this one work? And that is not something that's hard to learn. In fact, quite honestly, I haven't done this in years. And I probably should have practiced before the video. So anyway, this honestly will not take you very long to get down. And even if you drop them, the fact is you have the 2 important cards in your hand. And in some ways, it makes it even more unbelievable. It's like, how in the world did those cards go flying everywhere? And you're still holding the cards that are the companion cards to the prediction cards. So just about every outcome can be kind of spun in such a way that it's either a natural element, a natural part of the whole thing, or it actually strengthens it. So my snap glide was in the performance technically was terrible, but the messiness, maybe it adds to it, Okay, so how does this work? Well, you have the spectator genuinely mix the cards. Okay, so it is a randomized deck of cards. So you don't know anything about the order of the cards. Okay, and then you take the deck from them. Now, it's pretty important that you take it from them, not like this. Take it, face down, and then you turn it towards you. And so what you're looking for is you're noting the identity of the top and bottom. Those will be the special cards. Okay, so you're looking for the black king somewhere in the middle, which is the king of clubs, of course, and then the red 9, which the other one is 9 of hearts. So just think black king, red 9. So and you have them, towards you. Spectator doesn't see this. So black king, red 9, black king. For red 9. And if for whatever reason you don't see one of them quickly enough, you just say, wow, boy, I got one prediction card. It was just very clearly the right one, but the second one is very elusive. I'm not feeling a very strong signal as to what it should be. So yeah, you can cover your tracks there. So anyway, let me just point out, now the order of these, it doesn't matter. So I have a companion card on the bottom, companion card on the top, okay? Well, at this point, it's all a matter of, convincing the spectator perhaps that the cards are mixed. To immediately do this little glide thing would probably would give it away. So there needs to be a little bit of convincing that the cards are somewhat mixed. So to do this, you just do a riffle shuffle where we want this one on the bottom, and then on the right, we want this one on top, right? So make sure I didn't mess that up. So it's called retaining the top and bottom stock. And it may take a little bit of practice, but you just make sure the left hand falls first and that the right hand falls last. That's all you're doing to maintain those. The top and bottom card. So left goes first, right needs to go last. And even if you, quote, miss it, at least on the top one, like there I, quote, missed it, I need this one on top, you just kind of separate them. You just kind of separate them, and it's normally not too hard, nor does it take much fiddling to get it to go back. Oh, looks like I wasn't focused. I wasn't focused on the bottom, was I? Sorry about that. Okay. So make sure the left one falls first, and then the right one. And if for some reason the top one kind of gets in the wrong order like that, if you just kind of separate them and make it out that the cards are like butting up against each other, things won't come together, and so you have to move them back. And while moving it back, you correct it. You make sure it's on top. So you make sure that one's on top, this one's on bottom still, which it is. Okay. And then in addition to that, what I did, which you could, is do a couple of overhand shuffles. This is a shuffle that's worth learning because it can serve different sneaky purposes. But so we want this. Now, by the way, when we pull the top and bottom off, we don't care which one's on top and which one's on bottom. We want the king and the 9 of diamonds to be the 2 that we pull off. We don't care which one's on top or bottom, right? So what you do is you just make sure you pull off 1. And then from here, it doesn't matter how many until you get close to finishing the cards in your hand. And then when you start getting close, just pay attention and make sure that that last card, what was the original bottom card, goes on top. So what's happened is the king of spades, the 9 of diamonds have switched places. Well, of course, if you do it again, they'll go back to where they were. So pulling off the first one and then very quickly do clumps. Most people won't even notice that you pulled off just 1, nor would they even kind of think about, well, what does that mean, And then down here, just make sure you just have a single card, namely that one, that goes on top, okay? And then if you're brave, you could do more riffle shuffles while retaining the bottom and top card. And then from there, you can just bring these out and say, what were the prediction cards again? Whoop, I flashed it, by the way. You don't do that. Oh, that's interesting. I kind of saw the future that these cards would be, important to us. Okay? I don't know how. I'm not sure how they'd be important to us, but what the heck? Where do those come from? Okay, so the snap slide happens so fast they're not even sure like where those came from. I guess it's not the end of the world if they know it's the top and bottom, but in some ways maybe it's good that they don't know that. Okay, so with a little bit of practice, you can kind of get this snap slide down just fine. Don't drop the cards. By the way, this is a almost brand new deck. So you want a fairly new deck, maybe not a brand new one, but fairly new deck for this, just because you want a minimal friction between the cards. So anyway, that's a fun one to do. I don't know, it's hard to say if there's much mathematics in that one necessarily, except just keeping track of the left and right hand as you're riffle shuffling. You know, you need the one on the left to fall first, the one on the right to fall last. So the order in which those fall, well, mathematics deals with order, of course, a lot. So anyway, that is See Into the Future, kind of a quick, fun one. Now, because that's kind of a fast one, what I thought I would do is kind of give you a second way to take advantage of the fact that you might know the top and bottom card. So it's the same setup as this one here. But it doesn't require that snap little glide or slide. Okay, so some people might be a little nervous about that. So here's a way of doing this performance where it's far less scary, I guess, from a card handling point of view. Okay, so what you do is it begins the same. Spectator mixes the cards as much as they want. And then you're going to find the companion. Oh, wow, companion card to that one's right there. Now I need a red 7. Okay, so I have those right now. Set that down. Put these aside and say, okay, these are our prediction cards for later. Okay. Now what you can do, I suppose you could do a riffle shuffle in which you retain the top and bottom, or an overhand shuffle where you move the top to the bottom to the top. But eventually what we're going to do is, and it's something we haven't done in any of these See Into the Future, is you simply just perform a Klondike shuffle and do that until the spectator says stop. So, I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful routine here. So remember, the Klondike shuffle is where you take the bottom and top card off as one, right? Those are our special cards. Those are the ones we're going to reveal. Isn't that nice? So you do top and bottom as one. And then, you know, you deal quite a few of these because you want quite a few. And then you say, well, tell me when to stop. You know, we can stop. You know, you don't need to be counting anything, which is great. Maybe they say stop there. That's great. So just recall the situation we're in. We have some unknown number of cards. We do know it's even because of the pairs. And then the special cards are at the bottom. Okay. Well, if you've watched some of my other See Into the Future, you know, we're kind of at a situation where we have finished from this point in a number of ways. Okay. So one way, of course, would just be to just deal left, right, because those bottom two cards are going to be the last two dealt, right? So from here, it's very similar to other ones that we talk about under this heading of See Into the Future, okay? And if you recall, what we did there was we said, well, we have these prediction cards. I wonder if I really did see the future. Did I see something about what the outcome of this would be? And note here, contrast it with some of the other videos. We had a 50-50 chance, unless you're like really keeping track of things, of this matching that, or this matching, you know, or this being paired with that, okay? Well, this time we, you know, nailed it, which is wonderful, you know. So now we're going to get a perfect alignment here. It's like, yes, you know, we got it. And spectator's going to go, okay, how in the world did you just do that? But if for whatever reason we had those switched, oh, okay, sorry, I'll just back up. Okay, so we're here now. We don't know the order here. So we show this one and we go, oh man, that's a fail. Do you see any connection between the 7 of diamonds and the Jack of clubs? I don't. Oh, what the heck? Something's gone wrong, I guess. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. What's going on here? These are companion cards. Wait a second. There's no way. There is no way that is the Jack of Spades. No way. There's no... I can't believe it. How did you just happen to tell me to stop shuffling to the table exactly where we needed to have this outcome? And this is from a shuffled deck, a deck that you shuffled at the beginning. You freely shuffled it. And all I did was I just chose 2 prediction cards without actually changing the order of any of the cards from when you had shuffled it. And then I did this Klondike shuffle to the table. And I said, well, you tell me when you feel like you want to stop. And I stopped exactly where you told me. And then from there, we just did left, right, because we had 2 prediction cards. I thought, well, why don't we deal out 2 piles? How in the world did it lead to this situation here? How cool is that? Do you think you could do that again? So anyway, that's another way to do it. So you can use the Klondike shuffle if the cards of interest are at the top and the bottom. Okay. So anyway, I thought I'd pair that with the Snap Glide one that I showed you because that's such a fast one. You kind of blink and it's over. So anyway, well, thanks for watching, and take a look at some of the other ones under this heading of See into the Future. Okay, this is See into the Future. And if you were here, I would have you shuffle the cards as much as you would like. You could even table wash the cards. And once you're satisfied that the cards are sufficiently mixed, I would just take the cards from you and choose 2 prediction cards. Now, of course, I would do that in a way that you can't see the faces of the cards. So in the case of this video, I'll have to go off camera. But when we go to do the tutorial, I'll show you exactly what's happening. Okay, there's a good prediction card, I think. Boy, the second one's really hard. I think that's a good one. Oh boy. Okay, so we'll put our prediction cards over here where you can keep an eye on them. I'm going to go ahead and just shuffle these cards because you might think that I've rearranged them or that I'm aware of like where cards are or something like that. So I just want to make sure that you know that these cards are randomized here. Okay, that's probably enough, 3 shuffles. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to make an absolute mess. Okay, so I'm going to flip the cards face up, face down. And somebody's going to have to clean up this mess at the end. I hope it's not me. Okay, wow, what a mess. Okay, in fact, I wanted to show you how messy this is. So it's face down over here and face up on the right. Oh, yeah, see, it's opposite here. Face up on the left, face down on the right. Oh, wow, there's even a place where it's facing the same way. Isn't that crazy? Well, let's just see what that has done for us here. I'm just going to try to spread these out the best I can. Oh, that's curious. I thought we had, wait a second. I thought we had mixed them face up, face, I mean, you saw me, right? What is going on here? You saw me shuffle those face up and face down. How did these 2 get? Wait a second. We had 2 prediction cards, didn't we? At the beginning? Oh, how in heaven's name did that happen? What is it? I can't believe it. Okay, my first question is, I saw those cards being mixed face up, face down in a very messy manner. And then the only 2 that are facing the opposite way are the companion cards to my prediction cards. Oh man, I know I saw these clearly in my future. I had no idea that it would come out to mean what it's showing here on the table right now. How in the world did that come about? Okay, how does this work? We have the spectator mix the cards as much as they would like. They can even table wash the cards to thoroughly randomize them. And then when they're done, they just hand the deck to you as the performer. Now, what you're looking at, and you just tell them that you're going to choose 2 prediction cards. Well, just by the name here, you can guess what they are. The 2 prediction cards are the companion cards to the 2 bottom cards. Okay, so the 2 bottom cards, and I'll just show you clearly here. So it's a black 2, and this is a good way to think of it. Just think black 2, red 3, as you're looking for those in just a moment. So black 2, red 3. So we're going to find the companion cards to those and leave those on the bottom. Okay, so black 2, red 3. Now you have this towards you, right? You don't show the spectator what you're doing. Okay, so there's the red 3. And if for whatever reason you forget where your bottom cards are, you can just kind of spot them there, which is nice. And so let's see, we need a black 2 now. There you go. Okay. And then just, kind of make sure you don't flash that, meaning show the spectator accidentally what the bottom card is. And then you can set your 2 prediction cards off to the side where the spectator can keep an eye on them. Okay. Now you can actually continue from this point and make a big deal about the fact that I'm not going to change the order of any of the cards. You saw me, I just chose 2 cards that ran, kind of prediction cards that I felt were part of our future together, but I didn't mix the other cards at all. Okay. That's not the way I did it. It's the way I've done it in other ones of this, under this category, under this heading here. But you can. What I chose to do, and it's not too hard to do, is I just did a riffle shuffle in which you retain the bottom 2 cards. I just make sure that these 2 fall before the other side, right? So what that does is it just keeps them at the bottom. So it's called retaining the bottom stock. That's like the official name for it. So you just make sure that falls first, and then the other side can fall, and then they can fall in, left, right, in whatever order. Okay. So here you would not be giving it back to the spectator to shuffle, because most likely they'll destroy things. Okay, so maybe just do 2 or 3 of those. You don't need to do very many. And most spectators do not even know about this idea of retaining either the top cards or the bottom cards through a riffle shuffle. Okay, so they will think, oh, okay, the cards have been mixed. Again, they mixed them, and now you've mixed them after choosing your prediction cards. So the important thing is the 2 cards of interest are at the bottom. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to use a technique, once again, that I haven't shown you before, but it's out there. You kind of hold the deck like this, and you need to give it just a little bit of a bend. And sometimes I'll even cover I think that's how I do it. I actually kind of go like this to cover the fact that I'm doing that. And if my finger needs to help, it's right there. So you just give it a little bit of a bow. It doesn't have to be super extreme. Okay. And then what you do, it'll take a little bit of practice, but not too much. You push off a number of cards, and then you flip them. Push off another number, flip those. Now, if you do this slowly enough, you'll quickly see what's going on. And that's one of the reasons to try to get to the point that you can do it kind of fast, without dropping everything. Because the spectator, most spectators can probably figure out, well, wait a second, I think I know what's happening here. You see, that you're just kind of dividing the deck sort of in half where they're facing opposite ways, which is true. But what you need to do now, when you get down to those bottom 2, so deposit that 3rd one there, you flip it over like that, and then these need to go kind of face to face with that top one there. Okay, so what that does is it puts those 2 out of sync. You can see right here, they're out of sync with the others. Okay, at least the top portion. Okay, we'll see why we retain that in just a moment. Okay, and then you kind of close it up, and I would hold kind of hold it tightly here, because spectators may notice that there's kind of a bow there, right? So what you do to kind of convince them that the cards are really scrambled is, so there's the center, right? So you break off about a 4th, and you just show them, oh, okay, it's face down on the left, face up on the right, which is true. Put it back, and then go about 3/4, Oh, wow, over here it's face up on the left and face down on the right. Okay, so it's kind of a convincing, it's a convincer that cards are all scrambled. And then it will naturally want to break where you have that bow. So what you do, you go, oh, wow, look at this. They're actually both facing down. And now, if you notice what I did is so it was like this, right? They were like this, and you're showing it. You're showing it to them, and then it's been flipped, right? Can you see that? I flip it and put it on top. You know, don't do it too slowly, and just do it as if nothing's being done that's sneaky, okay? But that action will do what maybe you think it'll do. It will actually correct the orientation of all of the cards, except for those two that you intentionally kind of flip them so that they were out of sync with their neighbors there, right? And then you can make a big deal. I mean, it's almost like a 1-2 punch here, because you go, what in the world? I mean, you saw it, right? You saw me mixing that up and down in just a haphazard way. How did most of the cards get corrected? They're facing the same way. Oh, and what's up with these two? Why are they not also facing down? And then you can kind of, slowly have your eyes, fall on your 2 prediction cards and go, oh, wait a second. I chose 2 prediction cards, right, at the beginning? I wonder what these are. What? Companion card to there's no way this is the 3 of diamonds, right? Oh man, what is going on? The universe is imploding. What is going on here? Can you explain to me what has just happened? You play dumb and whatever kind of, acting or bad or good acting you want to do, any little drama that you want to add to it. But the first punch is, just about all of these are now facing one way. How in the world did that happen? And then you have these 2 little, lone cards that are out of agreement with their surrounding cards. And then it's almost like an afterthought. Oh, wait a second. I chose 2 prediction cards. And then you bring them out and show them that they're the cards that are facing the opposite way here. And this routine will be completely inexplicable to 99% of spectators out there, unless they already know quite a bit of card magic, right? Okay. So anyway, this technique of doing the up facing and down facing is one worth learning. It's technically a sleight, of course. So here, this would be a fun one, to have facing the opposite way. And ideally, this is like the spectator's card. They freely chose it earlier or something, and then you, quote, controlled it to the bottom of the deck. It's at the bottom. Come over here, give it a little bit of a squeeze, like I said, and then you just go through, up, you just say, oh, okay, we're going to make a big mess here, kind of like you do in your bedroom. You just make a huge mess that's going to take forever to clean up. Now, as you get close to the end, you have to kind of keep an eye, because you want this final card, a single this time instead of a double, to be out of sync with his neighbors, like that. And of course, because it's face down, they don't know what it is, right? And then you kind of hold it, kind of tightly. I don't know if you can see my finger. My finger's kind of pushing on it a little. Finger's kind of pushing on it a little bit. Because depending on how vigorous you were in putting that bow, it looks like I put a pretty big little bend in it. You need to kind of keep it squared up. Sorry, drop things. You need to kind of keep it squared up so they don't see that. Okay, so they, So anyway, so be aware of that. And then, do you remember what we did? We showed like the bottom 4th and go, oh wow, that's face down, face up. And then go up to about 3/4. Oh, that's the opposite. Face up, face down. And then naturally it's going to want to do this. Go, oh, wow, they're both facing down. And then you just, without even thinking, you have to realize that, okay, you're right here. If you immediately went like that, they would know. You just reverse that. So you don't do that. You go, oh, that's interesting. Go, oh, that one's face down and that one's face down. Okay, because you've separated these spatially, and there's a little bit of a time delay, and you're doing this pointing to the different parts, they've lost track of what parts go where. And so you just set them down as if it's supposed to go. This is putting it back the way it was. It's not. It was supposed to go like that. Put it back like that, and then the dirty deed is done. All of the cards will be facing the same way, except for that card that started at the bottom. Okay. So anyway, that's a fun routine for See Into the Future that uses this clever technique for reversing certain cards and having all of the cards around it facing the opposite way. Thanks for watching. Okay, we're going to try something together that mankind has kind of wondered about, and maybe some people actually were hoping that one day we would be able to see the future. So let's give it a try with this card effect, because if we have something random occur, but yet we're able to predict it, we're able to see it clearly and accurately predict what happens, that's pretty darn amazing. Okay, so I have this highly shuffled deck of cards. We actually don't need the entire deck for this, and it would just be a lot of cards to work with. So I'm going to kind of riffle down the side of this deck until you tell me to stop, and then we'll throw out some of the cards because we just don't need them all. So you tell me when to stop. Stop. Okay, we'll get rid of those. So we still have, I don't know, good third of the deck or so. So we're going to deal these cards into 2 piles. Okay. And you have to realize that the cards here, well, I shuffled the deck, I don't know how many times while talking to you. And then you decided on which ones to throw away and which ones to keep. And now we've done this left-right shuffle. And so why don't we even just kind of randomize these cards further? We'll deal these out into 2 piles. So we'll have a total of 4 piles here. Okay. So we have 4 piles that we're looking at. Let me just move this over because a prediction was actually written before we started. It's been in plain view the whole time. It's over here. And the prediction is, what is the prediction anyway? Let's see. You will reveal, let's see if you can see it here. Maybe not there either. You will reveal the 4 aces. What do you mean reveal? Let's see. Reveal the, we didn't get all 4 if we got 3 of them. That's a fail. A 3rd fail. And a 4th fail. The only thing we got that maybe is kind of nice is we got a couple of queens of the same color. So that's kind of nice. I'm sorry to say that is a fail. That there's no way that we could attribute this to anyone seeing the future. I don't know why. Normally when you use a dash, it means that something kind of follows it. But you'll need to flip the piles? Flip which piles? Oh, these piles? No. No way. No. How in the world? There's no way. We got, oh man, we got 3 aces. We got all 4 aces. How in the world? Is that what? You will reveal the 4 aces. We did indeed. We just needed to understand how we would reveal them. Okay, great. So that is the performance with a subpar acting. So you're probably a better actor than I am. And so you'll be able to dress this up a bit more interestingly. Okay, so let's just talk about this effect. It's not too difficult to see what's going on with this. It's very much in line with these other effects that we've been doing where we talk about See Into the Future. The key really is to just be able to, in your mind's eye, kind of follow the movement of cards from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top and back, moving cards from the top to the bottom and then top again, that kind of thing. Especially when we're dealing them out. You're dealing them out into piles. Well, when you deal cards out, it reverses their order. Well, if you deal them out again, it reverses that reversing, right? So in mathematics, we would say that's the identity. That's kind of like a group element of order 2. If you perform it twice, you get back to where you started. So that's a mathematical concept, of course, performing an action twice that returns you back to the original state. And that kind of thing is happening here. Now, you would not have to use the 4 aces, actually. You could use any 4 cards. In fact, one thing I thought of that you could do, so I started with the 4 aces, of course. I mean, that's what gives it away there. Bottom 4 cards. They started here. Maybe just for fun, why don't we do a little bit differently? And then the explanation I'll give you will still work. Now, the advantage to doing it the way I'm going to show you now is with those 4 aces at the bottom, I had to make sure they stayed on the bottom throughout the shuffling. Okay, and in some of my other videos, we talk about preserving the bottom stock. Bottom stock just means a certain number of cards are kept where they are, right? Well, to do that with a riffle shuffle, what that means is I need to make sure, see, these are the bottom cards right here. I need to make sure at least 4 of those fall before I have the right hand, before the right hand cards fall. And that would preserve whatever's on the bottom, okay? Well, 4 cards to preserve at the bottom, believe it or not, is starting to get to be a bit much and not have it detectable. So anyway, that's explains all of the shuffling. I was just making sure that on the left, this half here, I had at least 4 cards falling first. Okay. Now, if you want to avoid that and you want to go with more of a impromptu, true random deck performance, let's go ahead and show you that because it's going to involve the same steps that we needed for this original one. So what you do is you have the spectator freely mix this deck, okay? And then they just hand it to you, and you explain to them that you're going to choose 4 prediction cards, 4 prediction cards. So now what you're going to do is you're going to make note of the bottom 4 cards is what you're going to do, okay? Now, it can happen that, if we're wanting companion cards like the 2 of spades, the 7 of clubs, oh, it's already here. So in this case, you have to kind of improvise. You never know what's down here. So if you go ahead and find as your prediction card, 2 of spades, and then go ahead and find the other 2 sevens. That will be super surprising. And then find the 9 of hearts. Okay, so you leave those down there, and then you go through, and so just remember, we're finding the companion cards to the black 2, and then red 9, and then the red 7s. So black 2, red 9. You don't show the spectator. You can hold them like this. Black 2, red 9. Okay, black 2. So I'd hold them like this. Black 2. That's a good one. 2. Oh, there's that one of the red 7s, by the way. And black 2, red 9. There you go. And then if I'm not mistaken, you probably saw it as well. There's the other red 7. So you set those down. Very good. So these will be now it's 4 prediction cards. Okay. Ooh, that's a big number to be working with here. But they correspond to the 4 cards at the bottom. Okay. So they're either companion cards or they're cards that complete the entire set of cards of a certain value. Okay. Very good. Now, what you could do here is, if you've watched some of my other See Into the Future, there's a number of ways to kind of branch off from here. If you want to, so you have to realize the spectator shuffled the deck in this particular rendition. So it might be helpful to not upset the order of these, right? So we've just pulled out 4 prediction cards and to not mix these further. Now, if you want to mix them, you'll have to do the same thing that I needed to do before, where you riffle shuffle in a way that you leave those 4 cards where they are. That's a bit dangerous, I think. So it might be safer to go this route and explain to the spectator and say, okay, well, you shuffled the deck, and then I simply chose 4 prediction cards, and I didn't change the order of any of these. So you sell that as a positive, a selling point. You'd make a big deal about how I didn't change the order that you put them in. Okay. And now you explain, well, we don't need all of these cards. It's just too many to work with. So you tell me when to stop. And this genuinely is a free choice here, which is powerful, right? Because they're deciding which cards really and how many we're going to work with. So you go like this until they say stop, and then you just set them aside. These are, just cards over here. I'll just push them off to the side. And then you just, begin dealing them into a left and right pile. Well, just think about what's going to happen. Those bottom 4 cards, where will they land? Well, 2 of them will land on each pile, right? 2 of them will land on the top of each pile. There you go, right? That's where they're going to land. Well, what did I do in the original performance? I said, well, to really scramble these things, and you can now point out the fact that you have 4 prediction cards, so you need 4 piles to work with. You would just deal these out into 2 piles each. Well, 2 times 2 is 4. So you'll get a total of 4 piles. But, think, well, where are the special cards now? Are they on the top of these piles, or are they on the bottom? Well, they were on top, right? We had 2 of them on top of each of those 2 piles just a moment ago. And then we dealt each pile into 2 piles. Well, that moves them to the bottom, right? Moves them to the bottom. So there's like the 2 of clubs and so forth. Okay. And then if you use the same approach that I did, you can say, well, I suppose you could show, there's so many choices here, it's hard to know which one to show you. You could go ahead and kind of show the prediction cards and go, well, here are the prediction cards that I had. Well, what are the chances that these match those in some? Oh, no, that's a fail. No, there's no jacks over here. Nor is there an ace. Nor is there a 5. That is a big, fat fail. And then you can either show a flash of inspiration or recollection and go, oh, wait a second. When I was kind of seeing the future, I wasn't actually seeing these cards. I was seeing the cards on the bottom. Yeah, that's what it was. My whole world was like flipped upside down in that quick little vision of the future. Yeah, that's right. I was seeing things from underneath. That's what I was seeing. And then you can just point out that you've found a very remarkable collection of cards. You found the other 2 7s, super unlikely. And then you found the companion cards for the other 2. Okay. Now, if we had not had 2 companion cards here, these would have all been different values, which would have been great. In some ways, maybe it would have been better because this is a little confusing because of that. But you never know what you're stuck with after the spectator freely mixes the deck. And so you kind of have to be aware of a few different contingencies that can happen, like this can happen right here. So anyway, that is a performance of See into the Future, where we're using the bottom 4 cards, and it uses something called a miscall, by the way. That's some vocabulary. A miscall is where supposedly you messed up. Your prediction did not come about. Your prediction appears to be wrong, right? Appears to be wrong. And then kind of like I did with the piece of paper, I brought it out and I said, oh, but you'll need to flip the piles. And then it comes to the rescue and then you nail it. That's just a fun way to kind of throw the spectator off that you've messed up, and then suddenly, wham, you come down with a kind of a killer ending that, no, you didn't mess up at all. You nailed it. So anyway, that's a fun performance there. And so the main difference here is that you're dealing out into 2 piles and then 2 piles again. So when you if we had just dealt into 2 piles, the cards of interest would be on the top of those. Now, if you deal each of those 2 piles into 2, it moves it to the bottom. So kind of mathematically speaking, you just have to keep track of, okay, top, bottom, and, when you perform a reverse counting twice, it brings you back to, where the cards were, because the cards actually began on the bottom. That's how they landed here in the end. They're on the bottom of these piles, not the top. So anyway, that's a fun one that doesn't have too many steps to it. And it can, this doing it the way that I've just shown you here, you can avoid having to shuffle the cards and try to retain the bottom stock of 4 cards, because that can be a bit tricky, and even the best of magicians can mess that up. Anyway, that's a fun one involving 4 cards there.